How do you steal nearly $40 million, hold two families hostage, and then vanish without a trace? This isn't a movie plot. It's a real story that still haunts police to this day. Two ordinary men forced to help pull off the biggest bank robbery in UK history while their loved ones were threatened with death. And even after massive manhunts and countless arrests, no one was ever convicted and the money was never recovered. How did it happen? Let's break down the crime that outsmarted everyone: the Northern Bank Heist. Kevin McMullen, a manager at Northern Bank, was enjoying a calm evening with his wife Karen when a knock at the door shattered their peace. Outside stood two men in police uniforms, complete with official badges and paperwork. They told Kevin there'd been a family accident and he was needed urgently. Kevin, caught off guard, stepped outside, only to feel a gun shoved into the back of his head. Inside, Karen was overpowered by a third man who wrapped an arm around her throat and forced her to the ground. Kevin and Karen were dragged into a spare bedroom and forced to face the wall while the men issued cold, simple commands. Forget your job, forget your pride. The only thing that matters now is your wife's life. They were now prisoners in their own home and about to become pawns in something far bigger than they could have imagined. 20 miles away, another trap was being set. Chris Ward, an employee at Northern Bank, was watching football with his family and girlfriend in West Belfast. A friendly visitor came to the door, chatting about Celtic Football Club, Chris's favorite team. But when Chris opened the door, two other men appeared from the darkness, their faces hard, their guns drawn. Chris's family was pinned down instantly. The men revealed their true purpose. This wasn't about football. It was about the bank. They told Chris that he'd be taken away for 24 hours, while his family stayed as hostages. If he cooperated, they'd live. If he tried to resist, they'd die. These men knew everything: Chris's workplace, his job title, even his shift schedule. They had planned it down to the smallest detail. As Chris was forced into a waiting car, he realized he had no choice. He was a captive now, just like Kevin, and neither man had any clue how deep this nightmare would go. The criminal's method was what's known in Northern Ireland as a tiger kidnapping, a two-step crime. First, kidnap someone valuable, and then force them to commit a second crime under threat of violence. Kevin and Chris were perfect targets. Trusted employees with keys to the bank's massive cash vault. Their families were leverage, their knowledge the key. The gang even split up Kevin and Karen, sending Karen blindfolded to another house, so Kevin couldn't try anything desperate. The robbers were extremely cautious. They cleaned every surface for fingerprints, barely spoke except for one leader who handled all commands. The others used whistles or jingle coins to communicate silently. It was a cold, systematic operation, designed to leave no evidence behind. As the hours crawled by, the men laid out the rules. Kevin and Chris would go to work as if nothing was wrong. They would receive instructions through a phone, with only one program number. If they messed up, their families would pay the price. There was no room for mistakes. And what happened next would push them far beyond their limits. Morning came like a death sentence. Kevin drove with Chris to the bank, their family still in mortal danger. They had to smile, greet their coworkers, pretend everything was normal, while knowing one slip could get their loved ones killed. The bank was buzzing with pre-Christmas business, millions of pounds moving through its underground cash center. Kevin and Chris went to their posts, keeping an eye on the clock. They had to call their captors at 3 checkpoints, confirming that everything was under control and no alarms had been raised. Every call was a reminder: fail and your family dies. At 5 p.m. sharp, they put their plan into motion. Kevin told the staff there was a problem with the cash balance, sending them home early. Only Chris, Kevin, and 2 security guards stayed behind. In that moment, they owned the bank. They unlocked the vault together, keys in shaking hands. Inside, stacks of fresh bills towered in green boxes, the smell of money almost overwhelming. Chris quickly loaded a bag with £1 million, avoiding security cameras by hiding in a known blind spot. He walked out to a nearby bus stop, set the bag down, and waited. Minutes later, a man arrived, scooped up the cash, and vanished. Chris returned to the bank, hoping this was finally over, but then his phone rang. "Good," the voice on the other end said. "Now take more." His stomach dropped. The nightmare had only just begun. The next phase was even bolder. The gang had planned to swap the seals on the green cash boxes from metal to white, making them appear like they only held shredded waste paper. In banking, White seals meant trash, metal seals meant real money. Chris and Kevin worked as calmly as they could, loading these boxes onto trolleys, while a security guard named Billy watched. Kevin told Billy the bank's waste was being picked up. Billy, seeing the white seals, thought nothing of it. Soon, a white van rolled up to the secure loading bay. Kevin called the captors, who sent 2 masked men to haul box after box into the van. The men moved fast, 24 boxes in total, over 20 million pounds worth. In minutes, the van was gone, carrying away a fortune no one would notice was missing until it was far too late. But the robbers weren't finished. Kevin and Chris went back for more, this time scooping up loose, used banknotes and stuffing them into giant black bags. With no way to hide them, they had to risk everything and trust that Billy wouldn't look too closely. The second van arrived 45 minutes later. In total, they loaded another 5 million pounds. Then, just like that, it was over. Kevin and Chris were told to raise the alarm, act normal, and go home. Their families were waiting. Within hours, the police swarmed the scene. A young couple had reported the suspicious van earlier that night, but it was too late. The robbers had vanished without a trace, and 26.5 million pounds was gone. The biggest bank robbery in UK history. The police launched a massive investigation, convinced that insiders had to be involved. Kevin and Chris were both arrested, interrogated, and held for months. Kevin spent a year under suspicion, but no evidence ever linked him to the gang. Chris was also tried, but prosecutors failed to prove anything. Both men were eventually cleared, though their reputations would never fully recover. Meanwhile, police raids hit Belfast, Dublin, and even Cork, hunting for IRA connections or organized crime rings. Some suspects were arrested with small amounts of the stolen cash, others caught trying to launder it, but no one was ever convicted of the actual robbery. Rumors still swirl about who was truly behind it: paramilitaries, crime syndicates, or a ghost team that no one has ever identified. And the money? Nearly all of it has never been found. The Northern Bank robbery remains one of the most humiliating failures for UK law enforcement. 26.5 million pounds. Families terrorized, 2 bank workers forced to cooperate, and no trace of the masterminds to this day. So that leaves one question echoing across Belfast even now. Could a perfect crime like this happen again? And if it did, would anyone be able to stop it?